Where Hulk Hogan lives now is tough to handle. Hulk Hogan has transcended professional wrestling to become a global legend since his muscle-bound body exploded onto the national scene in 1984. However, regardless of how much you know about the Hulkster, we doubt you're aware of these Hulk Hogan facts. We cover everything from his early days as a rock and roll musician in Florida to his days at the top of the WWF and WCW. In addition to his wrestling triumphs, we've peeled back the layers on Terry Bollea's life, revealing what drove him to consider suicide at one time. If you find yourself calling everybody brother all the time, share this Hulk Hogan facts video with your friends. Early life. Terry Eugene Bollea, better known as Hulk Hogan, was born in 1953. Bollea was interested in both baseball and rock and roll as a boy, growing up in Tampa Bay, Florida, with only injuries halting a potential pitching career in the former and playing bass in multiple bands to satisfy the latter. At the age of 16, Bollea started watching local professional wrestling and became infatuated with wrestling great The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. In the late 1970s, Bollea started training to be a professional wrestler under the direction of wrestler Hiro Matsuda. Thunderlips. By 1982, Hogan was performing as a professional wrestler all over the globe, including successful stints in Japan and as a vicious heel for Vince McMahon Sr.'s WWF. He did, however, have a falling out with McMahon over his acceptance of a part in Rocky III. McMahon issued an ultimatum to Hogan, either the promotion or the film. Hogan rightly picked the film and stepped away from the WWF for the time being. In the film, Hogan portrays arrogant professional wrestler Thunderlips, who competes in a charity bout against Sylvester Stallone's titular boxer at the start of the film. Hogan's performance not only provided him with his first public exposure, but it also made him immediately recognized and, more crucially, lovable to fans of the American Wrestling Association, where he proceeded to work after the film. Much of Hogan's babyface hero act that would come to define his career was honed in the AWA. Runnin' Wild. Vince McMahon Jr. was one among those who kept a close eye on Hogan's AWA tenure. The younger McMahon had no problem with Hogan's involvement in the Rocky picture. In fact, after purchasing the WWF from his father, one of his first steps was to bring Hogan in and place the company's title on him. McMahon then transformed Hogan into a real-life superhero/flag-waving patriot, advising his little Hulkamaniacs to train, say their prayers, and eat their vitamins. The WWF, with Hogan as its main attraction, upended the wrestling business, which had traditionally been organized into regional territories, by spreading its touring and syndicated programs throughout the nation, as well as airing on cable television station USA. Wrestling was thrust to the center of the 1980s pop culture as a result of the growth, which resulted in the establishment of WrestleMania, which drew a reported audience of over 90,000 people by its third edition in 1987. That gigantic stadium spectacle included the most renowned professional wrestling bout of all time, Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Crossover celebrity. Hulk Hogan became a crossover superstar when the WWF swept across popular culture in the mid-1980s. He appeared in several MTV specials as part of a partnership between the wrestling promotion and the music network known as Rockin' Wrestlin' Connection, interacting with celebrities such as Cyndi Lauper and Mr. T, both of whom were crucial to the success of the first WrestleMania. In fact, the night before WrestleMania in 1985, Hogan and Mr. T co-hosted Saturday Night Live. During the same time period, Hogan appeared on various talk programs, including The Tonight Show, and was featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated. However, Hogan's mainstream contacts were not all positive. Richard Belzer, an actor and talk show presenter, bribed Hogan into placing Belzer in a chokehold during a recording of his chat program, Hot Properties, in 1985. Belzer passed out in the hold and slammed his head on the studio floor as Hogan released him. The incident prompted Hogan and the WWF and Belzer to file a lawsuit, which resulted in a monetary settlement. From the ring to Hollywood. Despite becoming wrestling's greatest star and generating record-breaking crowds alongside Macho Man Randy Savage, Hogan started attempting to break into the film industry in the late 1980s. His first feature film leading role was in the McMahon-produced No Holds Barred. In the film, Hogan portrays Rip Thomas, a virtuous professional wrestling champion who must face the monster Zeus, Tiny Lister. The film was a flop, but it has since become a cult classic because of its interesting sense of humor, the inclusion of Zeus in the then WWF's narrative, and Lister's eventual acting career, which includes a minor but key appearance in The Dark Knight. In the 1990s, Hogan appeared in a number of films including Suburban Commando, Mr. Nanny, Muppets in Space, and Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain, as well as a number of television shows, including his main role in Thunder in Paradise. Despite these achievements, Hogan's acting career never took off. Wrestling winding down. As Hogan's film schedule expanded in the early 1990s, he started to reduce his wrestling time. After losing the WWF title to the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6 in April 1990, Hogan was reduced to a part-time status in 1991 and 1992, despite winning the title twice more and headlining WrestleMania 7 and 8. Steroids. Hogan's reputation was shattered in 1992 when he was entangled in a steroid controversy centered around Dr. George Zahorian, a Pennsylvania doctor who had spent years selling drugs to WWF athletes. Fearing that confessing to steroid usage would harm his family-friendly image and hence jeopardize his sponsorship, Hogan went on Arsenio Hall's talk program and claimed that he'd only taken steroids once to rehabilitate from an injury. Many criticized Hogan's appearance, calling it dishonest at best. Following the catastrophic performance, Hogan vanished from the WWF until March 1993, when he briefly reappeared, considerably smaller, before departing again that summer. In return for immunity from prosecution, Hogan agreed to testify for the federal authorities in their steroid distribution case against Vince McMahon the following year. However, Hogan's evidence, in which he acknowledged to using steroids on a regular basis since the 1970s, ended up undermining the government's case since he denied that McMahon ever encouraged him to take steroids or furnishing with drugs. WCW. Hogan joined with World Championship Wrestling, or WCW, in July 1994, months after testifying against McMahon. On television, Hogan quickly became the company's champion and most promoted celebrity. Hogan's deal was not only lucrative monetarily, but it also allowed him to create authority over not just his personal stories, but his whole organization. Hogan exploited his creative influence to bring in numerous ex-WWF stalwarts, thereby driving out some young wrestlers like Steve Austin, Mick Foley, and the future Triple H. The NWO launches wrestling's boom. Hulk Hogan, the wrestling industry's paragon of morality for nearly a decade, startled a generation of fans by turning heel in July 1996. Hogan, whose legendary performance had been booed the previous year, was transformed into Hollywood Hogan, the head of the evil New World Order, or NWO, faction. Fake wrestling and real lawsuits. Unfortunately for Hogan and the WCW, their reign atop the wrestling mountain was brief. By 1998, McMahon had shifted the WWF's focus to a more shock TV-driven idea centered on the obnoxious Stone Cold Steve Austin, leaving the once innovative NWO concept appearing dated in contrast. Hulk Hogan's house. Hulk Hogan, the iconic wrestling figure, is presently residing in Clearwater, Florida, a location that's provided to be both a gift and a difficulty for the superstar. Clearwater, with its magnificent coastal vistas, active culture, and sunny climate, is a wonderful environment for Hogan to call home. The continual attention from fans, photographers, and wrestling fans, on the other hand, may be exhausting at times. Hogan's celebrity position means that his every action is scrutinized, making privacy a valuable asset. Nonetheless, Hogan has managed to strike a balance between the demands of popularity and the desire for a calm existence, making Clearwater his home, where he continues to make an everlasting impact on the wrestling industry while navigating the difficulties of celebrity life.